With less than 2 months to the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Egypt, Nigeria has announced that it will need $410 billion to deliver what its energy transition plan and reach net zero by 2060. Now, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says the country is currently in discussions with partners to get an initial $10 billion support package, which will help the country to reach the target. This, among other issues, will be our focus on Green Angle. Welcome, I am Esther Mokwariola.
Greenhouse gas emissions due to the burning of fossil fuels like petrol and diesel are the major drivers of climate change and air pollution. And it is projected by the World Health Organization that between 2030 and 2050, climate change could cause approximately 250,000 deaths per year and has the potential to undermine decades of progress in global health. However, a phase-out of polluting energy systems, experts say, could lower carbon emissions, ambient air pollution, and save millions of premature deaths. Recently, Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, proposed a debt for climate swap deal in which bilateral or multilateral debt is forgiven by creditors in exchange for a commitment by the debtor to use the outstanding debt service payments for national climate action programs.
Those of us who are paying attention to all the issues on climate change, the climate change component is really ambitious, and we think that it shows U.S. leadership in the area of climate change, and we're all excited to queue up behind the U.S. and see that we get many of these objectives on the way.
Some of the gains of the proposal may lead to the cancellation of billions of foreign debts over time, creating jobs, addressing the issue of energy poverty, and aligning with the global community in cutting down carbon emissions. However, analysts believe much more needs to be done to yield the desired expectations of the climate swap deal.
We bear the brunt of the global climate crisis, even though we are responsible for insignificant contribution to the global emission. But I think if you are looking for help outside, you should position yourself as somebody is ready to help yourself inside. What are the internal measures that we have put in place? We have a revised NDC, we have a fresh National Climate Change Act, and these laws are very clear, explicit. They say that there should be a dedicated fund. How serious is the government to achieving this first? And then what measures do you want to put in place to assure those you are owing, if perhaps or peradventure they buy into the swap deal, to be able to commit yourself to delivering on the terms of the agreement? How realistic are the terms and targets that we have set for ourselves to achieve? So these are the things that we need to look at as a country.
While the proposal is subject to approval by the Global North, there are concerns about if the deal conveys the interest of other African countries, as Nigeria has negotiated outside the purse for the general climate adaptation in the Global South. It remains to be seen what happens next. Esther Mokwariola, TVC News, Lagos.
The current lack of power hurts livelihoods and destroys the dreams of hundreds of millions of young people. And that's according to Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, during the recent launch of Nigeria's Energy Transition Plan, designed to tackle climate change and deliver energy access for all by 2030. A climate change consultant, Professor Emmanuel Oladipo, and environment activist, Philip Jaco, share their thoughts on this development and how to ensure the successful implementation of the transition plan.
It is an attempt by Nigeria to try to secure a transition phase of moving from heavily dominated, fossil fuel dominated economy to an economy that will be more or less in the initial phase, be depending mostly on gas. The major challenge that many people are having with the plan is not that it cannot work. It is based on a number of very good scenario analysis and all the rest. And I think it has taken into account the gas master plan. But I think the major challenge is, can it not be integrated within the existing, and let us look at it now, and then before we start to implement, so that when we're implementing, it will be very easy to see how much of the other issues raised in other development, energy development plans that have been addressed.
The government has to go back to the drawing book. Listen to what those who are on the front lines of the climate crisis are asking for. Internationally, it is known that the drivers of climate change are the fossil fuel industry. Nigeria today is one of the highest flarers of gas after Russia and some other countries. Those things are the things contributing to the climate crisis. Can they go down? Can we look at how to ensure that the gas that is fled is re-injected properly and used for the benefit of people? That is what we want.
Many people today, they still tell you that it's only the soup cooked with wood that is tastier than the one cooked with gas. So if you have such cultural barrier, those are the things that this implementation we try to do. Apart from just laying down the infrastructure and thinking that people will just accept gas utilization as given, I think it needs a lot of thinking through.
To other matters now, a non-governmental organization is calling on the federal government to enforce the ban on tobacco advertising and promotion sponsorships, especially in the entertainment industry. Director General, Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, Akimbode Oluwafemi, said this during a campaign involving youths to highlight the dangers of smoking to human health and the environment.
In a situation where there must be smoking for historical accuracy as provided for by the laws of our land, then there must be warnings that goes with them. And of course, such films must be rated. And there should be enough collaboration among government agencies for the enforcement of our law, so that people who flout the laws should be made to face justice.
In our music industry, smoking and all that, it's all over our music videos and all that. So we're trying to sensitize our generation and the younger ones that it should be avoided.
Well, in recent times, the World Health Organization has drawn attention to the health risks associated with tobacco use and encouraged governments to adopt effective policies to reduce smoking and the fallouts of its use. Green Angle returns in just a moment. Stay with us.
Illegal bushmeat is on sale in our cities, risking extinction and our health. We've become a centre for ivory and pangolin smuggling. So please report wildlife crime and say no to illegal bushmeat. And let's work together to win for Nigeria. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
Waste management operators need to move beyond collecting refuse, transporting and disposing at the dump sites, but ensure all recyclables are sorted to promote a circular economy. And that's according to the President of Association of Waste Managers of Nigeria, Mr. David Oriyomi. He says the association is seeking the collaboration of the state government to effectively transit from linear to circular economy. In the meantime, residents were asked to imbibe the culture of sorting their waste by adopting a two-bin system where recyclables are separated from organic waste to ensure proper recycling and conversion.
As operators, We need to move beyond the issue of collecting refuse, transporting same, and disposing same at the dump sites. So we need to look into the issue of recycling to make sure that all the recyclables are sorted out. We must also make sure that we pilot the issue of circular economy.
Don't see your waste as your waste, but see your waste as your resources. So when you begin to see your waste as your resources, then people will not be disposing their waste indiscriminately. Then you begin to segregate your waste from the doorstep of you that you have generated that waste, and ensure that you remove the recyclables, you remove the combustibles, you remove the compostables, and instead of disposing or paying for it, especially the recyclables, you can even make money out of it.
And the Olusosi dump site, which is one of the major dump sites, over time is going to get filled up. We cannot continue to bury our waste. That's not sustainable. So we need to find ways of taking this waste away from the dump site. That's when it's sustainable. By the time you convert the waste, the plastics, into another plastics, the food waste into compost, then and goes into the agricultural sector, that's when it becomes a circular economy, and that is sustainability.
There is a growing appetite for bushmeat consumption in Nigeria, but the danger of introducing new diseases hasn't stopped people from eating them. We have more in this documentary report.
When I was very, very young, I've eaten snake, and it's delicious.
I eat grass cutter and sometimes antelope. Yes, I've seen people eat crocodile before. I haven't had the opportunity of eating crocodile, but I think it's something I would like to taste.
I eat bush meat, and the type is grass cutter, and I do eat it because it's delicious.
The issue of going into extinction, I believe that, it is the regularity.
Extinction? Wow, I never knew. Because I believe that naturally they reproduce themselves.
The fasting remains. I grew up in the village and we've been eating it since I was young. I never heard of anything of such. So let me say it's a myth, or maybe they just cook it up. But there's nothing like that, to be serious. There's nothing like causing monkeypox or chickenpox or whatever. And people are still eating it today.
Bushmeat, whether it's a grass cutter, snake or monkey, comes in different forms and sizes. Hunters kill these animals in the wild before they are transported to bushmeat markets across major cities like Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt and Calabar. It has become a delicacy for urban residents who can afford to pay 14,000 naira for a grass cutter. But as the demand for bushmeat continues to grow, so do the chances of introducing new diseases. Ebola, COVID-19 and monkeypox have all been linked to handling and consumption of wild animals.
If we go a bit into statistics, science tells us that about 65% of human diseases that we have currently amongst human populations originates from animals. Quite interesting how we often fail to see the link between bushmeat and human diseases. In recent times, in the last 2-3 years, it's more glaring, it's in our face. COVID-19 taught the whole world a huge lesson, and it came from animals.
In 2020, COVID-19 brought the entire world to a standstill. Although there were debates and conspiracies about where the virus came from, many believed COVID-19 didn't exist. But more research keeps pointing to wildlife markets as the source of the virus. New research recently concluded that the virus was likely present in live animals sold at the Wuhan seafood market in 2019.
It is common knowledge in our field that over 75% of infectious diseases that are circulating in human beings were contracted from animals. So, and the more wild the animal is, the more the chances of getting 1 or 2 or 3 diseases from it. It is a well-known fact that the Ebola virus was transmitted from bats. It is a very good working assumption up till now that COVID-19 was actually transmitted from an animal. It's an emerging disease. It's not a disease that's been known before. Human beings have been living, and we have known a considerable number of diseases that infect human beings. COVID-19 is new, and from where the suspicion of transmission or the emergence started from, it is said to be a wildlife market. So a good working assumption is that it's emanated from animals. So all we need to do is an enforcement of these laws. If these laws are properly enforced, it will reduce the hunting, killing, and consumption of wildlife drastically.
According to the World Health Organization, 75% of all infectious diseases in the last decade have originated from animals. Ebola, HIV, SARS, and COVID-19 outbreaks
We blacks, we believe in ourselves a lot. We think black power, we are immune to so many things. But I'll now ask you, where did Ebola originate from? And Ebola is very deadly. And when it came, it shook us to our bones. It originated in Africa. Lassa fever originated in Africa. The current one now, monkeypox virus, is in Africa. So we're not as immune as we think.
Research has shown, science has been able to prove that there's quite a lot of diseases that come from animals. So I am very sure that such statements coming from them is more because they are not properly educated enough for them to believe in that. The fact that their forefathers probably did not die as a result of such disease is not established because at the time the forefathers didn't have so much scientific research tools as we have now to be able to establish the cause of death in so many instances. We have read in history of so many disease outbreaks with unknown etiology. If the outbreaks were now, where we have a lot of scientific tools at our disposal, it's going to be easy to establish that such outbreaks were probably from animals.
Ẹjọ́ committee wọ́n sọ pé kọ́ máa cancel ẹ̀rọ ọ̀gbẹ́ yìí torí kò sí ọ̀sẹ̀ bá lè fún mi tó lè pay mi kò sí tó lè fún mi tó lè pay mi
tó ní mo mẹ́tí wọ́n rí lójúmọ́ kì í ṣe mí nìkan gbogbo táwa bì táwa nídìí ẹran gbé táwa kàkàtì afẹ́ tó 50 ṣẹ́mọ̀ èlò náà fẹ́ fún wa ní èdè ní ìgbà mi mò ń lọ ní ojúmọ́ gbà mí mo mú 500 kí la fẹ́ fún mi léde tẹ́fẹ́ tó fẹ́ ká mi.
So when I tell people that these are reasons why we must stop the bushmeat consumption, the reasons are so many. Disease is on one side. Our livelihood, our survival is also on the other side, because when we deplete the natural resources around us, the animals around us, we're depleting the forest dies. I'm telling you, very interesting. It's usually not easy to draw a straight line, but research has shown it. The forest dies, and we're the ones who suffer for it.
Meanwhile, as the world battles to contain COVID-19, Nigeria has recorded new cases of monkeypox diseases in at least 22 states nationwide.
As humans grow in population, we are moving closer to wild animals. As urbanization increases, we tend to claim land that previously used to be forest where these animals reside. And for as long as we do that, we are coming closer to the animals. So it is very classical to say that such diseases will come from relating with wildlife.
In the meantime, out of all the bushmeat available at the market, there is a new appetite for the consumption of monitor lizard. In February, photos of people buying and consuming monitor lizards emerged on Twitter. But what is this new obsession with monitor lizards? Why are people consuming monitor lizards? According to the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, the Nile monitor lizard is the least concerned, meaning their population is still much in the wild. But are monitor lizards harmful to consume? Do they pass pathogens to humans? We asked Abosede Olayemi, a senior wildlife and environmental health lecturer at the University of Ibadan.
When the animal is not healthy, is in ill health, when the animal is parasitized, the parasites live on these animals for survival. So most of the nutrients that are supposed to be deposited as flesh will be taken up by the parasite. And we all know that when the animals are parasitized or they have loads of parasites on them, it impacts on their productivity. It will definitely impact on the general health of the animal, and it will affect their reproduction. The man that feeds on the flesh of a monitor lizard that has been infected by pathogens will definitely also get infected through the consumption of the flesh of that infected meat.
It is believed that the continued consumption of bushmeat may see the extinction of some wild animals and the emergence of new diseases like COVID-19 and monkeypox. But to address this matter, experts say, starts with consuming healthy alternatives to bushmeat like fish, chicken and beef, and the relevant authorities implementing and improving on the state's wildlife laws.
As part of efforts to mark the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency visited Pop Beach, Ilashe, for its Eco Clean Air advocacy campaign.
If you bury it under this ground.
According to the agency, the advocacy entails proper waste management that will promote clean air and sound health.
We are trying to teach Lagosians how to manage their environment, to stop burning of trees, burning of refuses, burning of plastics, to recycle their plastic very well, and also to use gas in replacement for firewood.
So here today, we are collecting plastic waste, giving incentives, including money. And the high point of today is we are partnering with the Lagos State Health Management Agency by giving health insurance. If you bring me 30 plastic bags filled with empty water bottles, PET bottles, you and a family of 4 are entitled to free health care for a year in any hospital registered under the Lashma scheme.
Residents were asked to recycle their plastic waste, even as the state government said the trash collected will be converted to cash and recycled for other purposes.
We have a program called Cash for Trash, where we say pick up your plastic bottles, don't let them go into the oceans, protect the ecosystem in the oceans, because the microplastics, when the fishes eat them, we eat them, and it causes all sorts of diseases because plastic is non-biodegradable.
In the meantime, the Environmental Agency says the advocacy campaign will be replicated in all the local government areas in the state.
And that's about it on this week's edition of Green Angle. Until I come your way next time, remember, together we can build a sustainable world. I am Esther Makwariola. Bye for now.